My name is Gavin Evans, and this is my ranking of the Paranormal Activity franchise from worst to best. And this video will have spoilers, so there's your warning. But I know these movies have a bad rap. I know that. But I would argue that they are more good than bad here, and these movies were a huge success. And they were so influential. Like, because of the success of these movies, an entire subgenre in found footage movies was born. So, that is impressive. But let's begin with the worst one, and it's Paranormal Activity, the marked ones. And if I were to describe this movie, it would sound way cooler than it actually is. Like, this movie has demonic possession, it has superpowers, it has witches, and it has time travel. Like, that sounds so crazy and so fun, but the execution is bland. I never cared for any of these characters. It's never scary, and I just found this movie to be so boring. So it could have been a bland, generic, forgettable movie. But then this movie decides to have the dumbest fucking ending possible, and it just pisses me off. They decide to have these characters time travel to the end of the first movie, and they come across Katie. So at the end of the first movie, when she's yelling for Mika, it's not because something terrifying is happening, it's because these kids time travel to this kitchen. Like, what a stupid, stupid fucking idea. Like, just baffling. So this movie just pisses me off, and that's why it's the worst one. The second worst one is Paranormal Activity, the Ghost Dimension. And I do think this movie has some cool ideas. How this family is watching the third movie, how these tapes connect to these characters is interesting, how Hunter is found in 1992. Like, it definitely got me intrigued, but it ultimately goes nowhere interesting. The title, The Ghost Dimension, isn't even really present in this movie, and by the time it ends, it just feels like yet another movie in this franchise. And it does have a couple effective moments, I'll give the movie that, but the decision to let us see Toby is so stupid. Like, why? The first few movies are scary because of what you don't see. And now you give the demon this stupid CGI look. Just a terrible decision. So, yeah, this movie sucks as well. The third worst one is Paranormal Activity 4. And the best part of this movie is Catherine Newton and Matt Shively. They're actually very entertaining, and they keep this movie watchable. There's also this twist where it turns out that Wallaby isn't Hunter, but it's actually Wyatt. And at first you're like, oh, they subverted my expectations. That was a really cool idea. But then you stop and think about it, and by the end of the movie, it just seemed pointless. So Katie takes Hunter and then puts him up for adoption until they need him again. Well, that's fucking stupid. And it just doesn't progress the story in any meaningful way. And this movie's also not scary, and it does feel like more of the same. They try to use FaceTime and computers and the Kinect to make it stand out, but it's not enough. It isn't. At this point, the formula has gone dry, and it's a bad movie. But now let's talk about the good ones. And the fourth best is Paranormal Activity Next of Kin. Now, I do got some issues here. I don't like the fact that this movie is sometimes found footage and sometimes not. It's like, make up your mind. I also think that this movie can be bland, but the story being told is actually quite effective, and I liked all the crazy directions it took. The last 5 minutes of this movie is just insane in the best possible way. I think there's some nice winter atmosphere here. I love the moments where they're going down the well. And while it's not an amazing movie, I still think it's pretty good. So that's why it's the fourth best. The third best movie in this franchise is Paranormal Activity 3. And I do really like this movie. But I got some issues. The first one being that I think they show just a little too much. Like having the girls talk to Toby kind of diminishes his presence a bit when you know exactly where he is. And the movie also relies on these girls running around at night, and it's just not scary. But that said, the second half of this movie does pick up, and there is some effective moments. Like, that scene where they're playing Bloody Mary is just terrifying. That scene where everything's on the ceiling and falls down. And the entire climax with the witches is really effective as well. So it definitely gets better as it progresses. I do like Dennis as the lead character here. He's very easy to root for, and because of him, this movie is also kind of funny and charming in moments. I like the direction the story goes in. It expands upon the lore very effectively, and yeah, it's a really good movie, so that's why it's the third best. The second best is Paranormal Activity 2, and this movie takes what we saw in the first movie but finds ways to freshen it up. We've got more characters here, we've got more cameras, and it's enough. This is a very well-made movie that escalates ever so perfectly, and there are some terrifying moments. That scene where Christy is in the kitchen and every cupboard just opens up is one of the best jump scares of all time. The scene where Christy is getting dragged down the stairs is just really effective as well. And I also like how there's a psychological element with the dad who doesn't believe that they're being haunted. It does get under your skin when you're just shouting at him, believe your family, and I think that's a nice layer to this movie. I like the way it expands upon the story from the first movie and how it all comes back. And I just think it's a very entertaining and effective horror movie. Maybe gets a little messy in the big climax, but I still love this movie. But the best movie is clearly the first. It is the first. It is the original. And it just feels so fresh and new. Like this couple recording themselves at night. And night one, nothing happens. But night two, something very, very, very small happens. Night 3, something very, very small happens. And you're just fully locked in. You then start analyzing every frame of this movie. You're looking out the door into the hallway. Is there something there? You're looking at the blankets. Are they moving at all? Do you hear anything? And anytime you do catch onto something, it just finds a way under your skin. And you're so uncomfortable. And it's just terrifying stuff. And it's a demon. There is nothing these characters can do. So you feel hopeless. And then on top of all that, you've got this guy, Mika, who has such a fragile ego that he disrespects his girlfriend time and time again. So that just adds this other psychological element. It's just amazing. It has great sound design. It is so brilliantly directed by Owen Pelly. The acting feels authentic. It is just one of the best horror movies ever, so that's why it's the best of the franchise. But what's your ranking? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned for more videos soon. And Gavin out.